With the 2025 NFL Combine beginning today, there are a lot of things that teams need to upgrade this offseason. And one way to do that is within the NFL Draft. Folks, welcome to FAFO Sports. My name is Frankie. Today, we're going to frank around and find out how the top 10 teams picking in the NFL Draft can improve their team's chance of success in the NFL Draft. As you know, I am a new YouTube channel, and the best way to show support for me is to subscribe to the YouTube channel. So before we get into it, I do ask that you all please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And with that, let's get into some drafting. Now, at pick number 1, new GM for the Tennessee Titans, Mike Borgonzi, the Paisan that he has, said that they were looking to draft a generational talent. And to me, no one is more generational of a talent than Colorado's Travis Hunter. Hunter, for those of you who may not know, plays on both sides of the ball at wide receiver and corner, and he was a monster at the position. With 96 receptions, 1,258 yards, and an impressive 15 touchdowns, as well as 35 total tackles, a forced fumble, and 4 interceptions during 2024, Colorado's Travis Hunter, to me, is the perfect fit for the Tennessee Titans. And especially with glaring need at wide receiver and cornerback, the Titans are getting a 2-for-1 package in Hunter. And who knows, maybe Hunter, knowing him, will try and play both sides of the ball. So the Titans get a Swiss Army knife of a player. Then at number 2, you got the Browns, who are going to need a quarterback and potentially an edge rusher with the potential departure of Myles Garrett. Now, Garrett's frustrations in Cleveland have recently amassed, and he's even announced that he wants out of Cleveland. But with general manager Andrew Berry clearly stating that he is not moving on from Garrett, the Browns have another issue to look at: the longevity of quarterback Deshaun Watson, who retore his Achilles this offseason. And with how important the quarterback position is in the NFL currently, I do believe with the second pick, the Browns decide to go quarterback out of Miami, Cam Ward. Now, I'm not entirely high on any of the quarterbacks in this draft, but Cam Ward to me screams the most NFL ready. I'd argue he has the leg up on quarterback Shedeur Sanders because of his raw arm talent and his decision making. Cam played a very clean season of football, and in a season where Cam accounted for 4,313 yards, 39 touchdowns, and just 7 picks across all of his games played at Miami in 2024, I think Cam's done enough to prove himself worthy to be the second overall pick here. Again, the Browns need a quarterback with the health of Deshaun Watson being in question. And who knows when the next time the Browns will be picking again at number 2. So Andrew Berry, let's hope you're right with the pick of Cam Ward here. Let's talk Giants. Now look, as somewhat of a pessimistic fan of the New York Giants, and honestly, they really haven't given me a reason to be optimistic, I've heard a lot of reports about how the Giants could go with this pick here at number 3. Reports are coming out that the New York Giants love quarterback Shedeur Sanders, and honestly, I don't disagree with that statement. Over his time at the New York Giants, head coach Brian Daboll has made it very known that he wanted to move on from Daniel Jones and get himself a franchise quarterback, and I think that with the pick at number 3, the Giants do just that, and they feel pressured. And with both jobs of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll being on the hot seat to pick a quarterback here, and the quarterback pick is Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur didn't really have a bad season with 4,137 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 10 picks, and ultimately dealing with a piss-poor offensive line. Shedeur made the best of his situation at Colorado, and I think he can be a great quarterback, but as of right now, I don't think he's ready for the NFL, or should I say to start in the NFL at this very moment. But ultimately, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll feel that burning heat underneath their seat and go with Shedeur Sanders here at 3. Am I saying the Giants aren't going to get Matthew Stafford? No, but I just don't think that the Giants are going to be willing to give up what the Rams want for Stafford, so that's why I chose to go Shedeur Sanders with the pick. Now at, 1 second. There we go. Now, at pick 4, the New England Patriots have a choice to make. Abdul Carter has fallen right into their laps. And while I do think it's going to be hard for them to pass up on Abdul, I actually see them drafting Will Campbell at pick number 4 over Abdul Carter. As you know, the Patriots drafted Drake May last year at pick number 3, and the number one thing that the Patriots need to do in this offseason, especially in this draft, is prioritize protecting your quarterback, who was sacked 34 times during his starting period with the Patriots. And while I do think defensive-minded head coach Mike Vrabel is going to initially kick himself for passing on Carter, in the long run, I think the pick of Will Campbell is going to do wonders for the Patriots. And in a collegiate career where Campbell allowed just 5 sacks across 38 games played, the Patriots get themselves a massive upgrade at offensive tackle and get quarterback Drake May much needed protection. And at pick number 5, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it has to be Abdul Carter, right? Nope. Instead, I have them taking defensive lineman Mason Graham out of Michigan. And the reason is simply because they just don't need him. They already have Javon Walker and Josh Hines, Allen. Got to make sure you add the Hines because people are going to say that, oh, Josh Allen's is a quarterback. In all seriousness, the reason they take Mason Graham instead of Carter is just because they really do need an upgrade at defensive tackle. And with a unit that had just 34 sacks in 2024, ranking 28th in the NFL, and with the age of defensive tackle Eric Armstead, who is 31 now, potentially becoming an issue, the Jaguars get a long-term solution at the position. And another reason for Jacksonville Jaguars fans and head coach Liam Cohen to say, Duval. Say if you've made it this far, that means you probably really do like the video. And the best way to show that is to leave a like and, of course, as I mentioned, subscribe to this YouTube channel. It really does mean a lot. And let's get back into the draft. Now, picking at number 6 is, of course, the Las Vegas Raiders. And that team needs a lot of help across several areas, more specifically in that offense. And with both of the quarterbacks being off the board now, I feel it would be in the Raiders' best interest to select the best player potentially in the draft in running back Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty is a generational talent, and I believe that was emphasized with the monstrous season he had this year at Boise State. With 374 carries, 2,601 yards, and an astonishing 29 touchdowns this season, Jeanty not only proved that he was a workhorse, but is going to be a force to any team that he goes to. And the Raiders are lucky enough to be able to nab him here at 6. Now, look, I was having difficulty with this pick, whether or not the Raiders would choose Carter or Jeanty. Ultimately came down to what I believe the Raiders need to improve on most. And if you watched their rushing attack last year, it wasn't all that great. But when it comes to comparing their pass rushing and their rushing game as a whole, Jeanty's going to be one that bolsters that Raiders offensive production and ultimately will be one I believe the Raiders are going to love for the years to come. Now, with pick number 7, the Jets have just been watching and watching and watching as the potential best player in the NFL draft, aside from Ashton Jeanty, falls right into their lap. And the Jets make the easiest decision to nab Abdul Carter at pick number 7. Now, look, I understand the Jets already have Hassan Reddick and Jermaine Johnson, but if I'm the Jets right here, I don't know how I can pass up on a talent like Carter, who I believe would be an upgrade for Jermaine Johnson. On top of that, the situation with Hassan Reddick, with his holdout, who knows if he wants to be with the Jets long term. So I think this is going to be a no-brainer pick for the Jets. If somehow, some way, Abdul Carter falls to you, you take him. And just a little bit of a post-editing update here. Abdul Carter did just recently announce that he may be considering surgery, so I could see that potentially lowering his draft stock and ultimately landing him with the Jets even further. And with that, we now move on to pick number 8, the Carolina Panthers. And you know what? With how weird this draft board has already fallen and just how crazy some of my picks have been, I know I have another crazy pick. Now, for some of you who may not know, the last line of defense in the defense for allowing a passing touchdown is the safety. And I think with Malachi Starks being on the board here, I think the Panthers wouldn't hesitate to pick him with pick number 8. Some could argue that Will Johnson would be the pick here, but to me, again, as I said, the safety is the last line of defense. And with not so great tape this year, I think that's going to ultimately impact Will Johnson's stock. Am I saying Will Johnson isn't a great player? No, he's a phenomenal player. Great cornerback out of Michigan. But to me, I just think the Panthers are going to value the safety position more, especially with how rare it is to find a first-round safety. So ultimately, I see it going either way. It could go Will Johnson, it could go Malachi Starks, but in this draft, I am going to pick Malachi Starks here for the Panthers. And now with the second to last pick in today's video, because I don't want this video to drag and drag and drag with all 32 picks, The New Orleans Saints are picking at 9 here, and if there is one position that is needed by the Saints, it is the wide receiver position. The only true wide receiver that they have ends up getting thrown hospital balls by Derek Carr almost here, and I think with the pick here, it has to be Tet McMillan. McMillan is a physical receiver with exceptional footwork. And not only that, but it's also going to free up Chris Olave in the passing game. When your wide receivers behind your number one are Rashid Shaheed, Marquez Valdez Scantling, and Bub Means, yeah, that's not a great wide receiver room to have. And I think Tet McMillan will ultimately enhance that wide receiver room tremendously with his presence. Honestly, with this pick, I was stuck. I wasn't sure if they would go Tyler Warren here because he had fallen to them and how good of a prospect that he is overall. But to me, I just think the Saints need a wide receiver to help Derek Carr. And what better wide receiver than a potential Julio Jones-esque wide receiver like Tet McMillan? Now, finally, with pick number 10, we have the Chicago Bears. And I think this pick may surprise a lot of people, but not because it's not a position of need, but just because of how high Bears draft him. Gotta be honest, I was waffling this pick, watching Kelvin Banks Jr. and how good he is. It made it tough for me not to go with him here, but when I looked at the Bears depth chart, there was one position that I think they need more than the tackle position, the guard position. And to me, I think a perfect replacement would be Tyler Booker out of Alabama. You know what? I'm just going to be blunt here. Tyler Booker is a bull. And the ability he has to create and move the line down the field, as well as his elite use of his hands and power to his advantage in the pass game, I think both Caleb Williams and DeAndre Swift are going to absolutely thrive from the picking of Tyler Booker. Again, it's not that Kelvin Banks isn't a good player. He's a phenomenal player. But I just think when it comes to position of need right now, what they need more, I think Tyler Booker is a phenomenal pick here, even though some might consider this a little bit of a reach. And with that, that officially wraps up my first 10 picks of my mock draft 1.0. Again, I know this draft may come as a surprise for some of you, but to me, this is just how I see the board falling as of right now. And you better believe there's going to be more mock drafts that are potentially crazier than this one in the future. So, with that, I hope I've helped everyone frank around and find out a little bit more about how the top 10 teams in the NFL draft can improve this. Subscribe, make sure to hit that bell button, turn on notifications, and I will see you all in the next installment of Bafo Sports, where I can hopefully help you frank around and find out a little bit more.